Bom dia, gente! This is Frederick from Pearls of Portugal. Portugal is not only a great country to purchase a vacation home, for example, or to spend your retirement in the country, but it's getting also more and more popular for people who want to emigrate to Europe, to Portugal on a permanent basis. So this video is about the question, does it make sense to immigrate from the States, from the United States to Portugal? Maybe what are the pros and cons? What do you have to consider? And everything you need to know about Portugal. So maybe some basics about Portugal. If you're considering Portugal as a destination for immigration, I always recommend to make a scouting tip before, not just for real estate reasons, but if you just look at Google videos and if you have to find Portugal on the map first of all, it's Europe, then most Western country, close to Spain. We don't speak Spanish here, we speak Portuguese, like the Brazilians, just a little bit different. It's a small country with a lot of coastline, 10 million inhabitants, with a lot of history, with a lot of culture, with a lot of food pride, let's say it like this, with a lot of landscapes that differ from really thick forests, but you have really wide nature in the north, a lot of coasts, mountain areas. The border area to Spain are really looked like maybe the Toscana. I think it has a great variety and also helps if you'd like to move to Portugal to really see the different areas. It's not a very religious country, although it's Catholic. Religion takes part of the society, but it's something that happens if you like it to happen, but it's nothing that you will see really in daily life a lot. If you consider Portugal, come to Portugal first. If you haven't been there, try it, see it, and if you really like it, then maybe take the next steps of going to Portugal. If you have questions, of course, we're happy to help exploring the country in a first step before really deciding moving to Portugal. If you're from the United States, if you're a citizen or living in the United States as a resident, and if you would like to make this your permanent residency in Portugal, let's talk about it. If you are a US citizen, can you move to Portugal? Yes, you definitely can. Portugal offers a big variety of visas that you can use. In the past, the so-called golden visa, ARI D9 visa, was a very popular visa. It allowed you to invest into real estate and then acquire a visa, which gives you access to the Schengen area. You didn't have to live in Portugal. You were also offered tax benefits and so on. The most popular route, the real estate route, was cut at the end of 2023. Currently, you can still go for a D9 visa. So you do an investment, you're a little bit more flexible in terms of where you live worldwide, but still you have to invest. The most popular option currently of the resting options is to invest in an investment fund. So you have to invest 500,000 euros and more into a Portuguese investment fund. There are also other options, but they basically mean that you have to not donate but invest, but there's not a big return. The golden visa is not so popular anymore. There are other options. There are 4 more visas that are interesting. So there's a so-called D2 visa and the D3 visa have something in common. You actually work in Portugal. So the D2 visa is for highly qualified professionals that come to Portugal. There's a list of highly qualified positions and qualifications. So that's something you should check up front. The other one is the D3, where you actually start a new business or bring part of your existing business to Portugal, the D3. If you have passive income or if you make an income out of Portugal, there are 2 other options. So there's a so-called D7, which means that you have passive income, which can be a retirement fund, which can be royalties if you're a big rock star, or if you have financial investments and they pay you a certain amount per month and it's guaranteed. That's passive income. And if this surpasses currently 870 euros, you're good to go. There's some financial investments you have to take into a Portuguese bank, like around 10,000 euros, which I think is doable. That's an option. The other one, the D8, is that you have work outside of Portugal, the so-called digital nomad visa, and you move to Portugal. This can be for 6 months or can be a permanent basis. You have to have 4 times the minimum income, 4 times 870 euros gross per month, or on average per month if you're self-employed, which I think is doable. So can you come as a US citizen to Portugal? You can definitely, and Portugal offers a variety of visas that you can use, and I'm pretty sure one of the visas fits you and you can make your way to Portugal. One thing I'm getting asked very often, or in the initial call, if I'm a US citizen, can I buy property or can I rent property? Yes, of course you can. Usually the first step, if you would like to do an investment or if you'd like to rent, is to get a NIF, the Portuguese tax number, which is not a problem. You can even get the number while still living in the United States. You can also open a bank account, which takes a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks, but not just for US citizens. But you can still do this while you are in the United States. Like any other citizen, buy property, rent property. The only difference is in terms of visa. If you don't have a visa that lets you allowed on a permanent basis in Portugal, you have to leave after 3 months, after your tourist visa expires, and then you can only come back after 6 months. But if you would like to rent or buy, which in most visas is also a necessity, that you need to prove residency or you have a proof of residency. But you can do this. There are no restrictions. It's the same thing like anybody else in Portugal. How much is renting? How much is buying a property in Portugal? It always depends. You will find many areas where you can get a decent place for maybe 600, 800 euros in terms of rent. In the cities, I would always calculate with 1,000, 1,200 euros. To get something decent in the beginning. You can also spend much more, of course. If you spend 2,000, 3,000 euros, you're already in a luxury segment in Portugal. Portugal has an average gross income of 1,580 euros. An average property, if you don't live in the typical urban areas like Porto and Lisbon, for a house, I would dare to say it's 300, 350,000 euros. You get a very nice house for this kind of money. In the cities, of course, it gets more expensive. For a 2-bedroom apartment in Porto, you will spend around 250, 300,000 euros. In Lisbon, it will be more expensive, maybe 300 to 350,000 euros. It depends. It's like everywhere. Still, property compared to the United States, I think overall, if you compare it with the overall country, it's much cheaper and more accessible. But still, you have to compare prices. We're happy to help and help you find the right places with our buy agent service to rent or buy in Portugal. So you would like to move to Portugal, but you have kids and you're a little bit worried about the school system. First of all, the good news is, and there's no bad news in this case, Portugal, I think, has a very good educational system. It's a state-funded system where the government invests a lot of money. Probably some teachers will not agree in Portugal, but still, if you see it on the bigger scale, I think it's very good. It's also tough. You will always have the choice to send the kids to English schools, which are more popular in the bigger cities. If you really consider living in Portugal on a permanent basis, I usually do not recommend to send the kids to these kind of schools. Yes, they will speak English, but also a little bit of Portuguese. But if the kids really want to participate in higher education and keep up with the pace, I think it's really important that they really pass also the normal educational system. Otherwise, they have problems if you don't speak perfectly, if you don't read perfectly, and so on. It's a tough system. It's a good system, but still, if you consider try it or even start at an English school, but then send your kids maybe also to Portuguese school, which I definitely can recommend. First of all, the school system, it's similar. You have preschool, educação pré-escolar, which is from 3 to 6. Then you have the primary education, ensino básico, which is from 6 to 15 years. And then you have the secondary education, ensino secundario, from 15 to 18 years, more or less. And then you have higher education afterwards, which is basically university. The advantage of the system is also free. It's state financed. If you send these kids to a university in Portugal, and if you're a Portuguese citizen, the fees, university fees per year, they vary a little bit, but they cost, I don't know, like 600 euros, maybe 3,000 euros, depends on the university. Usually you also find a lot of choices close to where you live, if you live in a bigger city, and I think that's a big advantage. You don't need to save a lot of money. You don't have to acquire a lot of debts that you pay off the rest of your life to get an education, which I think it makes sense. The school system is good. At least that's my impression. If you're already in Portugal, if you have a different opinion, please write in the comments. But a big advantage, especially compared to the United States, is higher education. It's accessible, financially accessible, with really low fees. And yeah, you can send your kids to university in Portugal. If you live in Portugal for a certain period of time, can you become a citizen? Yes, you can. After 5 years being a resident in Portugal, everybody, independently what visa, where you're from, you can apply for citizenships. You should be have a criminal record by then in Portugal, which never helps. But if you have the sufficient language skills and so on, we put a link below where you can see what are the specific requirements. In most cases, if your home country allows it, Portugal doesn't really care about this. You also can have dual citizenship. Makes it also easier to stay really on a permanent basis in Portugal. I'm getting asked a lot, what are the best places? Of course, this depends on your preferences. Portugal, although it's a small country, offers a lot of variety. First of all, coastal lines, huge coastal lines, Atlantic coastal lines, with a lot of smaller towns. You have the Mediterranean Sea, the Algarve, with really cozy water temperatures, and also very cozy towns. Quite touristic, although in the summer you have the interior region and Alentejo, which really reminds me sometimes a little bit more of Africa. Quite hot, but still water and so on, but a different feeling. You have many interior regions. You have the Tejo and the Douro area with wine areas, very beautiful. You have the national park, Jerez, so a lot of smaller cities where you have mama papa stores, downtown, all the advantages of a city with stores, supermarkets, pharmacies and so on, which is a little bit more quiet life. If you like really quiet life, I definitely recommend to also take a tour close to or along the Spanish borderline, which is full of castles, beautiful towns, but of course a little bit further away from the coast in the bigger cities. Still, I think Lisbon 2 or 3 hours away, or Porto, depends where you are. So if you haven't been in Portugal, take a tour. Don't just rely on Google. Everything looks great on Google. Do a scouting trip before, find the right region. You can buy right away, but it's also recommended maybe to rent first, to stay at a certain place for 12 months, and then you can decide if you'd like to stay. You can also move, even if you come based on a visa, you can still move around. Of course, you don't fixed at a certain place. And then later you can also buy, or you can buy directly if you already know where you'd like to stay. So the best place is something you have to experience yourself, based on your experience or upcoming scouting trip. So one topic is also very important in terms of LGBTQ friendliness. Is it safe in Portugal? I think it's definitely safe, but I'm not part of the community, so I have to tell you my outside experience, at least what I was told. Since 2010, same-sex marriages are also recognized as a marriage. Since 2016, you can also adopt children as same-sex marriage. And since 2018, you can also change your gender if you feel that you would like to change it. So I think the legal basis is there. There is no open hatred. I see a lot of LGBTQ members going around freely, living their life like anybody else. So I think yes, if you have different opinion, please leave it in the comments. We also put a small article below to show you some insights. If you also know more funds, please also leave them in the comments. We're happy to share them here. But I think it's a very liberal country when it comes to LGBTQ aspects. Let's talk about maybe a small or bigger disadvantage of Portugal. It's a quite high tax country. So, for example, the income tax, it's between 13 and 48%. So if you're really a high income person and if you don't come with a family on an individual basis, you will definitely pay more to the state than you used to pay in the United States, that's for sure. So make your business case. I think it balances, especially if you come as a family, because if you have a main earner and they pay income taxes and also social contributions, which makes part of the tax that you pay on terms of the wage, and if you come with a family, you will definitely be better off than paying everything by yourself. But I think if you immigrate to Portugal, you have to see the bigger package. It's not just the income. You'll be fine, healthcare, education, and so on. You gain a lot of life quality. But taxes, it's definitely something you should maybe check up front, especially if you still have to pay Uncle Sam in the United States. What is the pro and cons of the double taxation treaty between Portugal and the United States? We're happy to put you in contact with the tax consultants to check this. Then you get transparency what the taxes are in Portugal. So what do you think about Portugal? You think it's worth immigrating to? Again, if you already immigrated to Portugal as a US citizen or as from somewhere else, please leave your comments below. If you're Portuguese, do you think it's a nice country where people should go to? Please also leave your comments below. If you like the video, please follow us and leave us a thumb up. And don't forget, stop surviving, start living. See you in Portugal.